This is Jan Ragnerud. Welcome to the online training. This is Facebook Ads for Beginners. This is part of a series training that I'm providing to you free of service because I love you that much. And with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look. What are we going to cover here today? Well, I'd like to break this down into a 1, 2, 3 kind of punch. And so we're going to take a look at understanding targeting options with Facebook ads. We're going to dive into placement types and the best options really to start as a beginner, and really also advanced concepts here. And finally, how and who, the targeting strategy. So, that's kind of where we're going today with this. So we're going to start with the targeting framework. And really, we have to take a step back, guys and gals. This is really the ultimate question, right? I mean, when we go out there and consult with clients, we ask this almost right up front, along with some other questions like, goal setting, revenue numbers, sales numbers, traffic numbers, conversion numbers. There's a lot of metrics, but we're not covering that today. So at the very simplest level, we like to ask who that perfect customer is. So if you're in a services-based business or a local business down the street, from the sort of florist on up, to large corporations, you have to be clear on this before you even get into targeting, right? So location, age, gender, income, kids, competitors, right? Who are they? What type of people are we looking at? Individuals, leadership, leading authorities, businesses, websites, all of that sort of compiled there. That's the competitive market research, right? But now it gets much more interesting here. Like gets into hobbies and interests and reading materials, books, magazines, TV, radio, podcasts. What you're trying to do here is define not only your perfect customers in terms of buying habits, but also kind of the psychographics, the technographics. So the standard demographics, yes, but it goes beyond that. In fact, Dan Kennedy, he developed the top 10 smart diagnostic questions. And you can get that at bit.ly/top 10 smart there at the URL. I put this together for you here, 1 through 10. When you start asking them outside of the obvious, as I mentioned, age, range, income, male, female, etc., what keeps them awake at night? What, are they staring at the ceiling, eyes open, have no clue what's going on? They're just nervous about the future. What is that thing that really keeps them awake, right? Number 2, what are they afraid of? I'm not going to go through all of these, but it really gets to a very smart sort of way of positioning, your message to your client. And you may have heard this before. The message to a market match is so key. People in Facebook advertising these days, and I see this quite often, talk a lot about metrics and KPIs and, should I do this or should I do that? And it gets into the tactical stuff. Well, that's important. That's part of the journey here. But that's kind of the mechanics, right? So if you go through the top 10 here and really drill this down, in fact, what we typically do is we have a little worksheet where we go through and kind of do a mini interview to get clarity on this. This is going to really help because as you'll see, and as we go through this training series, how you develop all of this really speaks back to your own messaging to make that a total market match. So again, you can go through this, you can download it, it's totally free, it's a PDF. But you really need to go through and get clarity on this. So one of the things that makes Facebook really, really awesome is that it is a targeting engine like no other. The ability to hyper target and to laser target at this level is sort of unparalleled in the advertising and marketing world of today. And 80%, I would say, 75 to 80% of your success with ads in Facebook is going to be based on this and the prior screens, as I mentioned, the demographics, technographics, psychographics, getting kind of a complete profile of that avatar, of that customer that is really a perfect match for you. Well, in this video trainings, we're going to dive into some of these. I'm going to just kind of mention a few of the different strategies for this level of targeting. We can get into custom audiences, lookalike audiences, which really is just, can you imagine, for instance, if you upload a CRM list from your email list and create a custom audience, which is really a database of your perfect customer. Facebook allows you to create a lookalike, which is sort of an extended profile based on patterns and behaviors of that custom audience. We call those LALs, or lookalike audiences. Very powerful. Demographics, we talked about it. Connections, likes, people who are engaging with your site or actually your page, your business page. We can actually go out and target those as well, right? And then, of course, at the bottom, interests and behaviors, which is kind of the lowest part on the totem pole, the bottom part rather, which is also what we call cold traffic, and it's a little harder to get that, but we're gonna dive through it. Everything starts though with the pixel, and if you haven't heard this before, then you're obviously brand new, which is totally cool. But it's a cookie that's placed out to the users, and it's in your website. In fact, it's something that we store on every web page of your website or websites, and we can even specify custom URLs of tracking. For instance, in a classic example here is if they're shopping with you and you have some kind of a shopping cart system, 1, 2, 3, maybe they went to page 2 and they stopped there. Well, we can specify that through the mechanisms, and now we're kind of getting a little technical here, of specifying that page 2 as a URL stop, or like a central page for you. That pixel is obviously on the page, but we can go and tell Facebook, listen, if somebody goes to that page but doesn't hit page 3, we want essentially to tell the system to fire off an ad for the next X days, 30 days, whatever that period is. Typically you don't want to go too far, right? Because you'll piss them off with, repetitive ads that keep showing up. But now you're going to get hyper targeted to that exact user behavior and to that visitor that went to page 2 and not 3. So you're expecting 1, 2, 3, 3 being sort of the checkout page. They stopped at 2. Well, we can entice them to come back. We can create special offers. We can really create sort of emotional triggers to make them move to that next level. So what I wanted to show you here, this is available in, actually this is my Online Business Muscle Builders Group, OBMB. And you can access this once you join there. It's free to join. And that sheet here breaks down essentially kind of the top 5 areas of what you can look at in terms of how you target. I mentioned the email list. That's at the very top there. And an email list is good, but imagine uploading an email list to Facebook. That's literally just an email list with a name, or, you can go wider on this. There's a lot of specificity here, but Facebook rather. Did I say Google? Facebook is very good at matching this up. So you upload it to Facebook, and if you're using a customer list of buying people, customers essentially that's already bought from you, not only can you then target them and specify ads, so show them ads that is specific to those offers or unique new offers, but you can also retarget them from the website. You can create lookalike email audiences from that initial email list. You can create lookalike website audiences. And then the interest targeting, as I mentioned, and like targeting, not the one that we actually prefer or run much. This can be a very low quality situation if you have a bunch of likes that are also kind of in the gray to black hat area, just a bunch of likes for the heck of it, right? So we covered that. I'm going fast here. Placement types. Let's talk about this. But before we do, let's just go over this real quick. This is the standard set of how the ad campaign structure work. At the top level, the campaign name, kind of the master controller, if you will. Then you have the ad sets, and you can have multiples of those, and then multiples of ads within the ad sets. Kind of follows the Google AdWords standard here, if we can call that a standard. And it's important for you to understand this, because as we dive into more future videos, we're going to show how we break these out to make reporting really easy for you. There's a lot of configuration and setup issue confusion here, and I want to kind of eliminate all of that. So once you get into the ad set, by the way, on the right hand side here, it defaults to automatic placements up here. We don't like to use that, even though it says recommended. You immediately go into edit placements, and we like to break it out by desktop and mobile, but right now we're just showing this. And then it's going to default to Facebook, Instagram, Audience Network, and Messenger. These are different places that your ads can show. But what we do in a beginner campaign is we just basically, as we expand out Facebook here, we just basically want to turn off all of these, and within Facebook turn off all of these. So essentially you're just left with the feeds area, just this one, which is basically saying custom place my ads to the desktop feed only, which by the way, you might want to just change that to desktop, right? And do the same and do it for mobile. And then start, I put here start with desktop feed. You can do the mobile thing, or you can just leave it as is. This gets right back to organization of your campaigns and ads. It also gets right back to budgets. If you're a beginner, you can start with $5, $10 a day. Well, each time you start breaking these things out, although that's favorable and it's the recommended path, you could have, 3, 4, 5 different campaigns or multiple ad sets, and you're starting to test images and ads against each other. And all of a sudden, even though you had $5 a day as your sort of goal, or $10, now you have different sets that accumulate. So you might end up with a $50 kind of broken out into multiple categories, multiple ad sets, multiple campaigns, and $50 a day was not your intended start budget. Again, I'm sort of talking to you as a beginner in mind. Start basic with this. Don't go too hot and heavy. This gets into mechanics and a lot of detail that frankly overwhelm people and also is not needed. So I'm giving you the basics. Starts with all devices. Facebook, turn these guys off. Start with Facebook and feeds only. Leave it at that. All right. Who to target? We're coming up on the close here. This is very interesting because, as I said, the targeting, I mean, you could have the best ad. It really speaks, it's sort of well copywritten and it speaks to a audience, but it's not targeted well. It's going to be problematic for you. It's going to also take a long time if you have small budgets. So what you want to do is use all that information we presented, from the top 10 smart diagnostics questions to all the demographic aspects. So you really are sitting almost with a worksheet right in front of you of the perfect male or female or both that is your target. And then click into the Facebook Ads Manager. You can just search that in Google if you're not already in there. Click on Audience Insights. And once you're in, you'll see something like this. And here I just used Tony Robbins just because everybody seems to know him. And it's a great example to show how these things break down. Now, it says here there's a 1.5 to 2 million active people. A nice large audience, I would say. Page likes is kind of the tab that we like to keep open, where we can start to look at what are other and related public figures and, like authors like Tim Ferriss, Jim Rohn, Wayne Dyer, etc., that we might be able to actually leverage. Now, we don't want to go too deep on this, but this is a great place to play. So we recommend beginners, as you start to work with this, to really get in and just get comfortable, start playing with this, start looking at what names start popping up. You can save this off as an audience to use within your Facebook ads later. But what we like to do is just kind of pull out the essence of what we found. Maybe you spend 20, 30 minutes in here, pull those essential pieces out and copy them into an Excel sheet or Google Sheets, right? docs.google.com. Create it right there. Because essentially what you're doing is you're creating profiles that start to match that perfect customer. And now we also want to be careful to not go too broad here because Tony Robbins is sort of self-help, self-development, but he also has a new finance book out. So you could consider him to also fall into the finance niche. And so now you're starting to sort of spread yourself too wide or too thin, really, across just a wide set of data points. So you want to keep those things in mind. But that's why this, first couple of slides where I talked about demographics and you start to outline the perfect avatar really will help you. But don't be afraid to play around in here and kind of get just some data points back for you. And here's another sort of piece of this audience insights where it shows the demographics. So here we can see we have a lot more women than we have men, which is kind of interesting, I guess. But also it talks about age brackets, right? So this gives you an idea. When you create ads, you may not want to look at this side of the house or this side, 65 plus. Find a kind of a mid-range, maybe a 20-year span in here as a max. And then also look at lifestyle. So we also have under advanced, when you expand that, which you'll see on the same screen, you have behaviors. It gets into education, work, financial. A lot of detail here. And frankly, if you go too deep on this, spend too much time, it'll probably drive you a little insane because there's so many options here. But this is exactly what I want you to do. Go in here and play, get an idea for what some of these data points and data structures look like for you and for your audience, for that perfect customer, and get a sense of that, and then save that off. And you can save it here as an audience, as I said, or better yet, put it into an Excel worksheet sheet and start working with kind of these profiles and these data points to really get a better sense for who is your perfect target audience. So in this actually it's 15 minutes here. Thank you for hanging out. We covered the targeting options with Facebook ads, placement types, and best options for beginners, and who and how to target through the Audience Insights tool. And next video coming up here, you'll get it in the next day or two if you're part of this series, and that's going to be covering pixels. This is really the sort of the essence of driving so much of this. And we're also going to show you some data points of some of the campaigns and some of the testing that we are doing and have done in the past as well. So that'll be kind of interesting. And of course, we're going to start looking at, how do we develop ads that match this and landing pages to get this going. And we'll show you some stats on that and conversions numbers that are pretty exciting. And I think if you follow this path, that's what we're seeing, you're going to see success. And that's my goal with this. So it's not just another set of, slides with a guy talking here for you. I want you to really dig in and push yourself to get this to work with me and our help on this side. So if this is something you want to kind of avoid and save yourself some time, we put together a little program here as well. You can go to bit.ly/Facebook input, and that's just a simple questionnaire. You can input some data points and tell us what you're dealing with, and we'll try and help you out. In fact, if you're one of the first 5 that get in here, we're going to see if we're a good match, we'll actually get you started for free. So it's sort of a small pitch here at the end, but this is just part of the journey. We want to really help you out. I'd like to see if you can see some success just by starting with these videos. And if you need more help, then go to bit.ly/Facebook input. All right. Well, thanks again. Appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the next video. Jan out. This is Jan Rognerud. Thanks for watching the online training.